Hello, friends. Welcome to Boring Dog, where we decode the riddles of the modern dog training world. And today we are talking about how, in the dog training sphere and just as humans in general, oftentimes we use movement, or even just accidentally, we let movement mask anxiety. We see that happening often in each other, in ourselves and in our dogs. And I think that's probably pretty relatable for a lot of people. Um, and so it's kind of, I mean, not kind of, it's entirely working against the goal of having just like a chill pet dog and just like a day-to-day life that is functional, manageable, calm, just like mundane, sort of normal everyday life. I think a lot of us are being led astray by the whole like enrichment trend and a lot of the messaging out there making dog owners feel guilty for not having their dogs occupied like 24/7. So especially those of us that have 9 to 5 jobs outside of the home and we have to leave the dog at home and people are feeling super guilty about the dog isn't getting just stimulation during the day. And so that's leading people to buy into the enrichment games and the food puzzles and the Furbo uh, camera that like delivers treats and checking in on the dog and, um, like doing a hike at 4 in the morning before you go to work just to tire the dog out. All these things that are guilt motivated and actually not getting us to our goals. And then when we are home with our dogs, most, again, out of guilt, I think people are just allowing their dogs to have free reign of everything. And so their default state is ping-ponging around the house. And it's just very like socially acceptable to let dogs be dogs and have them just going crazy like at all times, never setting boundaries, never telling them to go lay down, and never really like instilling the skill for the dog to maybe like feel excitement, feel impulses, but think about like whether or not it's actually appropriate to act on those impulses and just yeah, be a bit of a maniac, Tasmanian devil all of
I
the
think
time.
I think a lot of people think that their dogs are chill because at home they go and lie down like in their spot or on the couch or something. So I
Hmm.
think a lot of people find it really confusing when they either come into training and we say, no, actually, your dog's really anxious, or like I think people really, really struggle to understand that the behavior issue that they're seeing that's being presented somewhere completely random, like they bark at the fence and like go mental at the neighbors. They're just seeing that problem in isolation, and then we go into the house for a private session or the dog comes for a board and train, and then we see the root issue, which is a dog that isn't adaptable, like can't, yes, at home in an environment where it's predictable, they are like chill, but chill still like you move into the bathroom and the dog follows you.
Yeah. Well, it's
Or,
chill on their own terms. It's still an impulse, like to
yeah,
go lay down when the dog chooses to, but when you actually need them to come down to like a neutral state of mind because it's not appropriate for them to be amped up in a moment, that's like a skill that the dog doesn't have and the owner doesn't know how to implement or feels guilty for implementing. So yeah, the dog's chill because it'll go lay down once it's exhausted itself by barking out the window and following you around room to room, and then
yeah,
everything is quiet. But yeah, the skill isn't actually really there.
yeah. And like they're not, but then often I'll say, but if you move, oh yeah, then they'll follow me from like their,
Yes.
where are they going? And if I leave, they'll sit at the door and wait. And that's such a common story that I hear from owners. It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
really chill, but like if I move,
Yeah.
and it's
Or like
like,
number one statement I hear is, yeah, my dog knows place, or go lay down on your bed, essentially, is what place is for anyone who doesn't know. We just use one word for that. My dog knows place, but doesn't know how to stay there. Like that is, I can't even count how many times I've heard that.
yeah,
So thinking about place or go lay down on your bed as like I think most dogs and most humans see that as a trick. So the
yeah,
dog like goes, touches the target, just to be able to get off and be crazy again.
Yeah, and you'll see people like throwing food onto the bed. So the dog's like, you throw a treat on the bed, so then the dog goes on the bed, and then you keep throwing the treat on every time the dog goes to move. It's like you throw a treat, so then it
Yeah.
gets back on the bed.
And then you release the dog by like chucking a handful of treats across the room off the bed and saying break. And so now like place is not, there's no association of calm at all. And again, no actual skill to hold an impulse. Unlike this guy, that's what we're looking for, to just like, I'm busy. There's not an option to like be hanging out and communicating right now. So just that we want the dog to have that skill of just like go lay down and mind your business and just be bored for a little bit or have a snooze or whatever the case is.
Yeah, and can another thing I think, so a common confusion is like, oh, well, my dog's chill, so why do I need to like send them to go on place?
Yeah,
Can you explain to us why, like so obviously there's a benefit for the human because I'm busy, I need to be doing something, I need you to just go lie down and relax. But what's the actual benefit for the dog? To, because people will say, well, can he just lay on the couch? Like if he's gonna
right.
go, and
Yeah.
obviously, and so what's the actual benefit of an owner using
Well,
place when they're busy for the dog as well as the owner?
yeah, and a couple things. I mean, first of all, it's functional. So it's for both the owner and the dog. So it removes the dog from being in the way and then eventually being told off because at some point someone's going to get frustrated and yell at the dog. So that's a benefit for the dog in and of itself, and then for the human too, to just have like a functional command to get the dog out of your space without it being a performance or a trick or a transaction, something that you need to like continuously reward in order to keep the dog there, but it's just a given. When you go lay down on this target that we've created a very specific association for, which is be neutral, mind your business, and you're going to be there for a while, as opposed to something a little bit more generic, like, and that everybody has access to, such as the couch. That doesn't have the same neutral association that has many associations. Maybe we're going to have like a wrestle or a play session or a cuddle, or maybe one day this member of the family is on the couch with me and the next day this other member of the family. Like it's not as predictable as something like place, which is a target. It's the same, it's unchanging, and the boundaries around it are very distinct. So the dog goes on there, they're not allowed to come off the boundary and no one's allowed to go into the boundary. So now the dog knows like, okay, when I'm on this spot, it's truly just like shut off my brain and be neutral and hang out here. So that's one benefit of it. And then also it absolutely starts to expose what is being hidden under the constant movement. So if your dog is doing something that seems innocent, like pacing room to room, following you around, or just like looking out the window and then like hopping over here to get like a stuffy and then throwing the stuffy around the room and just like sort of innocent things. And then it hears somebody at the door. So it goes and like slides to the door and has a little bark or whatever it is. All of that stuff, if it doesn't bother you or if it doesn't stand out to you as something that you wish wasn't happening, then it's very easy to just overlook it or even say like, hey, my dog loves life. Like he's happy all the time. He's excited. Um, and to a professionally trained eye, or just someone who's a little bit more tuned in to just energy in general, um, it's anxiety. It's anxiety expressing itself through the body. And so all of that movement is an expression of all of that anxiety. So when we stop that movement, we just expose everything that's under the surface that would normally be distracted by moving around or de-stuffing a toy or jumping on a guest or whatever. When we actually like give the dog a target that they didn't necessarily choose at a time they didn't necessarily choose, to go and actually stay there for a long period of time, not just for a second and then get off, um, then we start to see what's under the surface. And so to an untrained eye, it might look like, oh, that command is actually causing the anxiety. What we truly believe is happening is it's just exposing the anxiety that was already there, that was just being masked by all of the movement.
Yeah, because as soon as you start to do those longer durations, you start to see the calmness set in. And
Yeah.
then, but because of the predictability of it, it's just like, oh, when I go on here, I lay down and I'm calm. And that's just the
Yeah.
association with the word.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to get that is by doing that longer duration, not using, because food is going to add energy. Like the idea behind place is to remove energy. Like we're saying, we don't want to be using movement to like mask anxiety. And so by using food and like rewards
Yeah.
to mark place, good
Yeah.
place,
Yeah.
we're not getting the benefits that you're describing because we're now teaching a trick, a body
Exactly.
position. We're not looking at the mindset
Yeah.
or getting the benefits for the mindset.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we've talked about before, like the duration part of it is so important, just like with anything, with building any like muscle or habit. You can't just do it once or do it for a second and then the habit is instilled or the lesson is learned. Like you by repetition and duration is how we actually learn things. And so many people stop and we use the example of like climbing a mountain. So many people like get halfway up the mountain and they decide like this is hard. I'm just gonna like let myself fall back down and just go back to normal or whatever. And you never actually reach the summit where it's like, whoa, like it's just peace up here. And I did it. We've like conquered this thing that was really hard. And now we just get to like rest in the peace of that accomplishment. A lot of people never make it there because it's the middle of it is too hard and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see our dogs sometimes trembling, whining, looking sad, like all these,
Panting, like
yeah.
stress panting.
And all that anxiety is bubbling to the surface, and we would rather distract and avoid with some sort of movement. Like, let's stop this. Let's just let the dog have a run, or let's go for a walk, or like play, or have add treats, or whatever it is. Like, there's just so endless ways to distract from the discomfort of just being with the feeling of discomfort.
And what do you think about like, some trainers out there will do place and they do condition calmness. They want the dog to learn to be calm, but they'll often say, like expend the energy first, then do the calm. Like,
I mean, yeah, sure, but I don't think it's unreasonable. In fact, I think it's beneficial to teach a dog that regardless of whether the physical energy has been expended, you can still get to a calm state. You can still go lay down and cope with the discomfort of, I haven't had a walk yet. I feel restless. Sometimes the answer to the restlessness is to, and like, it's so funny to me that it's socially acceptable. And even like in certain areas, it's celebrated. If a human can, or it's considered crazy. If a human can go like meditate for an hour when they're feeling restless instead of like manically clean the house just to avoid that feeling of being uncomfortable, of not wanting to sit still, of just feeling restless. So you can do that. You can avoid the feeling and be productive, or you can sit, like literally go sit down and be still and experience the feeling. Like the feeling isn't bad. We just run from discomfort so hard and we do the same with our dogs because we don't want them to feel any amount of discomfort. And I think it's beneficial, like to just learn how to be with it because it's life. That's life is uncomfortable sometimes. And sometimes I'm going to be ill and not able to walk the dog before asking them to go lay down. And it's just life. Like it just, you have to have that skill. That's functional.
or they'll be injured or something and they won't
Yeah.
know how to not have a walk one day. Like a good example, actually, Honey, I don't know what she did, but her back foot just the other morning, she wouldn't put weight on it.
Mm.
Like she doesn't seem fussed by it. She's still like happy and runs around, but she's just not putting it down. She's just like hopping everywhere.
Yeah.
um and I've like had a look, there's nothing in her paw, and it's just today actually it's got better, but this was not yesterday, the day before morning. So then I got her crate out. I was just like, okay, you just need to rest it, obviously. And if she's out, then she's just going to be like wandering around and trying to put it down. So the crate is a skill that we don't always use the crate, but she knows how to be in it.
Yeah.
She's just been on like crate rest for 2 days. And we're like on to day 3 now. Today she's putting weight on it and is kind of back to normal, but she's still normal. Like she isn't losing her mind because she doesn't know how to not have a walk, because sometimes she doesn't get one. Like some
Yeah.
days we skip a day or 2, like, and
Yeah.
it's fine, and people
Yeah.
are like, what, like your dog doesn't have a, like, yeah, obviously walks are important, and like on the weekends I'll run with her, and like I'll do stuff with her on days when it works better, but I do want her to have the skill of like not having a walk. And I will
Hmm.
add, like, I do live with a yard and like property, so she can just be outside. Like if you live in an apartment, then it is a bit different, like because they can't. I think it's important for a dog to be outside for
Hmm.
durations for the day if they're not getting a walk. Like I don't think it's fair for them to just be inside all day doing nothing. Like I think it's good for their mental health to like have fresh air and like be outside. So if you live in an apartment and you're
Hmm.
walking your dog every day, I think that's fine. But still, like every now and again, throw in a day where you don't, to like practice the.
Well, and I mean, yeah, like you might in an apartment or a condo kind of setting or just sort of super urban, yeah, you might only have time to get downstairs and do a pee break in front of the building and then back up and then you have to go to work and the dog has to stay in the apartment and like
Mm,
they still do need that skill for sure.
mm-hmm.
And I agree. I mean, we're definitely lucky where we live. A lot of people live in places where they don't have just like land to roam or forests to hike off leash and beaches and things like that. We're definitely extremely lucky. But yeah, even with all of that, it's especially with that. If you're living somewhere where you don't have access to that, then it's even more important, unfortunately, for your dog to like hold a lot of impulse and not like I think a lot of people would say because I live in this type of environment, I have to introduce these like food puzzles and stuff and different enrichment games and activities. And I think that's adding to the problem. I think that would, and I've seen it, it makes dogs more anxious as opposed to just like sit still
Mm-hmm.
inside the wherever you are. Like do your pee break, do your walk, and then go sit still. Like I just don't think adding a casino to your apartment is a good idea. It's not helping.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. I was going to say, like, so okay, people, that's kind of where this all started from, I think, is
Yeah.
people, back in the day, you wouldn't get a dog if you lived in the city.
Hmm.
Like people had dogs on property, they didn't have dogs in the city. But now everyone has a dog,
Yeah.
no matter where they live. So I think that's where it's gone a bit wrong, where
Yeah.
people are just like, well, I have a dog because I needed an emotional support animal.
Yeah.
I live in a
And now my
condo.
dog needs an emotional support animal.
Yeah, and it's like a funny thing that you see on Instagram. Like I got an emotional support dog and ended up being like for my anxiety, and now my dog has anxiety.
Yes. Yeah. Go figure. Because they're living, breathing animals that are going to take on whatever you input. So stop inputting casino games and anxiety, and you'll get a different result. If you input calm, that's what you'll get back.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think people get so hooked up on like if their dog is calm in their home space, then they're
Yeah.
calm.
Right.
And I think that's one thing I struggle with because it's just like, no, that like because there's some of the actually the least calm dogs that I've seen outside of that environment because the only place they can be calm is in that space. If anything
Yeah.
changes, then they're wrecked. And I
Hmm.
at the beginning of this conversation when we were discussing place, it sounded like the way you described place that it has to be one target and it can't change.
Right.
But just to clarify, like place can be whatever you call it, it just has to be a
Yes.
target that's different from the rest of the floor. And
Yeah.
that ties into what I just said. Like, if place is this movable thing that you can take anywhere, then that is what basically place becomes the space that is your home that the dog can relax
Yeah.
in. Now, place is that, and it
Yeah.
can go anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah. And the thing that doesn't change is the association to the target and the expectation that you have of the dog while it's on the target. So then you can imagine like we've back in the day when I was, I don't know if this was good or bad, but it was interesting, let's say. We would take a plate, like a dog bed or a place or a towel or whatever the target is, and we would put it in the very center of an off-leash, like a very busy off-leash dog park. And I have videos of this. I should see if I can find it. But we'd have a like a even a reactive dog just like on place. And because we created such a neutral association, and it's not like a shut down, like, oh my God, I can't look at anything, not that kind of association, but to be able to like look around and know that there's like this invisible protective bubble around the dog bed. So the dog is just like totally like otherwise reactive, a totally relaxed dog, while there's like absolute chaos flying all around them, like in the way of like other dogs in the dog park. And the other dogs would try to come up and sniff, and we our job was to send them away. And it was like phenomenal, like these super reactive dogs being able to just be like, yeah, absolutely meditating in the middle of a dog park.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like the ultimate meditation. That would be like
Yeah,
meditating in
in
Vancouver.
rush hour. Yeah, like sitting on a curb meditating in like at 4 p.m. in Vancouver. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and so we use this analogy a lot to describe the benefit because I think a lot of people just through social media now understand like why meditation is beneficial for themselves.
Hmm.
And so I guess we try to use that same because essentially the same idea behind place ties into meditation.
Yeah.
And before I met you, I didn't know, like I dabbled with Headspace or whatever just because I'd seen that it was good for you. But didn't meditate. Um, Kind of didn't really understand why. Like I was just kind of like, oh yeah, it's good to just like. I thought it was for anxiety only. Like if you had really bad like panic attack anxiety and you spiraled hard, then meditating was good for
Right.
you. But otherwise, like working out is also good for you.
Movement, masking anxiety.
Right. But when I first started dog training, I really struggled with the like it would usually be the like Aussie Shepherds or the
Yeah.
just like highly strung like overthinking dogs, teaching them place, and they're just like losing their mind on place in these durations, like not active sessions, just like place down, and then
Yeah.
they're just like trembling, shaking, drooling, like just everything. And I would say to you, like, what? Like, what is happening? Why is this so stressful for them? Like,
Yeah.
I could not understand. I was like, why is this
Yeah,
so
we're asking
stressful?
them to have a nap on a comfortable dog bed. How
Yeah.
stressful
I,
can this be?
I used to say that, but like the bed is cushy, they've got a blanket, like
Yeah.
nothing's going on around us. Like you and me would just be sitting there.
Yeah.
I just couldn't understand like why it was so hard at all. Like
Yeah.
what is so difficult about this? And then I guess you would probably say to me, like, well, because they're losing, like, it's the loss of control they're stressed about. Like the fact
Right.
that we're saying, go on that bed, lay down and stay there. They don't have control of what they're doing. They can't just get up and move. And some dogs will do that. They'll try to like get off and lay just next to place or
Yeah.
try to just go to another place to be like, well, what about here? What if I
Yeah.
have like my arm off place? And then you would kind of explain to me like that's all testing of like how much control do I have of this positioning? And it would be like, nope.
Yeah. And it's that I just want to mark like that part of the conversation where people think like my dog's testing because they're a brat or they're mischievous or whatever. And I really don't think that that's the case. I think they're testing to see what is reality. Like, is are there will if I push on this wall, will it just fall down or is it safe and secure? They're looking for safety and security and reality that they can actually just bank on, as opposed to a boundaryless life, which people think is kind, just let dogs be dogs, where there's no boundaries and there's nothing that they can rely on. They look around and they're like, I have no idea if I just can run out that front door and nobody will care and I'll just keep running and running. Like there's no like where are the rules? Where are the boundaries? And so when I say I think they're testing the boundary, I don't think it's from a mischievous place. I think it's from a like, okay, are we solid? Do you know what you're doing? Can I trust you to lead?
Yeah, but it is typically the more mischievous characters who are doing that, like in their daily life, they're mischievous
Hmm.
because again, that anxiety is masked by like what appears to be a happy, goofy, silly, playful, like
Hmm.
excited dog. You know, people see a picture of a dog smiling
Yeah.
and they're just like, oh, look how happy he is, or look at him smiling. And it's
Yeah.
like sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is
Sure.
just like a genuinely
But
stoked
when their
dog.
like cheeks are inside out and they're like Like it's not, it's definite anxiety.
Yeah. So I even saw humans just like I saw a video of someone put like a ball or something in a German Shepherd's mouth, and it must have had like a GoPro or something attached to
Oh,
it. And they like
yeah,
put the ball in the mouth, and then they must be like, I don't know, there must be a stick or something else somewhere else. And the dog is just like its eyeballs, it's whining, it's just like losing its mind. And the
yeah,
thing's like, look how cute this
right.
dog is. And I'm just like, I just see like, yeah, it's fun to invite our dogs into that state of mind every now and again, but most
Yeah,
dogs are living like that. They're experiencing
exactly.
that every day,
Yeah,
multiple times a day,
yeah,
in the name of like mental stimulation.
yes,
Because then what you see after that is a dog that's passed out, and people are like, oh, look, he had a great time at the
yeah,
beach.
yeah. And then
And
they
it,
wake up with like twice as much energy, needing more and more and more every day.
yeah, it's pretty wild. And now actually very triggering for me.
Right. Yeah.
Because I see now why it's a problem. But when I was watching these dogs on place just unraveling and our conversations would go on, it led us one day to, I guess, like silent retreat somehow. I don't
Right.
know. I still like if I get into it with someone about like how I got to
Well,
want
I
to go.
was quite surprised that you like, because I had mentioned that I'd done it before. Like, I have a meditation teacher in Victoria, and I had done a silent retreat and lots of like different workshops and stuff with him. So I had just like, it had come up in conversation, I think, just like over our friendship. And I was quite shocked that one day you were like, I signed up for this like 3-day silent retreat, but I don't feel like I had mentioned it to you. And I was like, wow, that
Yeah,
is
you did. You paid for my accommodation.
what?
You paid for me to go. You paid for my accommodation. So I must have said to you, like, hey, there's these dates. I'm free. I want to
Right.
go.
Okay.
But like,
But
whatever.
you had initiated it is the point. Like, I didn't say, hey, I think you should do this because you're
No, I
my
don't know. You wouldn't do that
right.
either.
No.
But I guess, like, yeah, I must have got curious on my own,
Right.
probably because there was like this challenge of like, lol, you couldn't do this. I think there was probably like an ear of like,
I don't know. I want to think I wouldn't do that, but maybe I did. I don't know.
yeah, I can't remember the
Because
conversation.
the thing about that is that, and this is like genuine. I know that like you and I have a dynamic, but genuinely, I would not want to be the person that like roped someone into that or somehow convinced them to do it because I know how uncomfortable it is. I would not want to be a person that like push someone that in that direction, but I will always share what I think is beneficial about it and just the things that I've gotten out of it. But just from a like moral standpoint, despite how I might have had that like thought, I don't know that I would have like tried to push you in that direction.
No, I imagine my own insecurities surround because by that point we would have lived together for a while. So
Right.
already there was this like weird observation of each other, like
Yeah. Oh, you can't sit still. Oh, you sit still a lot.
yeah,
That's
just that was already a thing.
yeah.
So and then we would do yoga together, or we'd work out together. So there was
Yeah.
already like definitely we knew like, okay, we're different.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess I was intrigued about how to be more like you in that sense of being able to just like sit
Right.
or just be slow or not impulsive.
Right.
But anyway, I signed up to this thing. Someone said, I remember you sending her. So there you go. You did send me.
Yeah,
No,
that's somehow we
you
got
even
from
drove me
I
there.
did because you couldn't drive that day. There's not like that drive there, I even remember, which like it wasn't far from our place, but yeah, you were in a panic even on the drive there.
Yeah. But I was lying to myself the whole time. I was like,
I
yeah,
know.
like this is going to be fine. I was just like, yeah, I'm not stressed about it at all. I'm fine.
I've never seen you. I've seen you stressed and I've seen you restless and kind of pacing and like I know kind of that side, but that drive was a much different thing where it was like you were really trying to put on a front of being calm and cool about it, like this is gonna be awesome. But it was a different type of anxiety that I've ever seen from you before.
I think I just had no idea what I was walking. You hadn't. I think you'd like showed me a walking meditation, maybe kind of, but it didn't sink in because
Yeah,
when the teacher first sat us all down when we first arrived and explained to us how the retreat was going to go, it
right.
was 4 days. For anyone listening who wonders, it was supposed to be 4 days.
Right.
Um, but the first hour was like kind of you get set up in your room and then we all meet in a room and I think we all ate first and then got explained how the next few days were going to go.
Hmm.
And the teacher explained a walking meditation and an eating meditation and a sitting meditation, which obviously I was familiar with, the only one out of all of them.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a 6 a.m. wake up or something into a walking meditation for 45 minutes.
Basically, everything that you do is a meditation. Like whether it's written on the schedule or not, like anytime you move your body, it's meant to be a meditation for and silent for those 4 days.
Yeah, it wasn't the silence. I didn't think it was the silence that was getting to me. I think it was the slow. I mean, even now when I explain to people what a walking, like if I show, do you know what a walking meditation is? And then I do it, people will like beg me to stop. Like I can see them just like freaking out, like not able to watch me even demonstrate. It makes them
Yeah.
so uncomfortable to even watch. And then people either get defensive, like, well, why would you even do that?
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
that's just silly. Or
Right.
people are like, oh my God, I could never do that and would never do that.
Yeah.
And I think I just came when I saw you talk about it, I didn't think that. I was just like, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, how hard can it be?
Which is what our dogs think. Like, yeah, it's so similar. It's like, yeah,
The
exactly.
board and train is a silent retreat, like
Pretty much.
for
Yeah.
our dogs. It
Yeah.
is. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah.
I
And
like
on the
feel
surface, it looks easy. It's like you're not doing exactly the point. We're not doing much, but that's the point. It's to expose what's all under the surface so that we could just like let it come to the surface, process it, and then let it go. Like so that we're not like gripping to these like weird rituals that we have to cope with anxiety. We could just like be uncomfortable with it for a minute, let it come up, and then let it just like float away like a cloud. Like it truly, it's not much, but it's hard. You don't have to
yeah,
do much. Like it's actually pretty passive, but it's pretty mentally difficult.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, to wrap that story up, we started the silence and the meditation, and I just started spiraling like hard. It was just like, oh my God, I can't do this. I need like how am I going to do this? I need to leave. Like, where's my phone? I didn't you weren't allowed phones, although I forgot a head torch, which was one of my biggest concerns because I was like, how am I going to do the walking meditation in the dark without a torch, a head torch? And I didn't
She
want to have
means
my,
flashlight,
oh,
lamp.
right. Um, but then just that's what was happening. And I'm so triggered by like rising, falling, falling, because I'm like spiraling, rising,
So
falling.
yeah, so that's a good point to make. Like for a dog, obviously we're not inputting like language for them to deal with this, which is probably better to be honest. But in a silent retreat, as a beginner, you're meant to label everything that's happening in your physical body, like pick something to focus on and label it mentally so that you can't spiral so that you can't like also focus on all of your worries, everything that's troubling you. So as you're breathing, you're supposed to put your hand on your belly and feel it rising and call and name it that rising, rising as it's rising and then falling, falling as you're exhaling. So if you're preoccupied with naming that, it's very similar to like if a dog is preoccupied with staying on the boundary, they're not also going to be able to ping pong in their mind of like, oh, there's a squirrel outside, but my ball's over there, but my bone's over there, but I need some water, but I need to follow my owner. Like all of those things go away when you like have like a narrow focus, which is what you're doing in meditation and what we're asking our dogs to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that rising, rising, falling, falling. Because for 45 minutes, I sat there like breaking, and I would have meditated. I had meditated because I think leading up to it, I had seen that the teacher, the way he started was to do 3 minutes a day. So I think I had like
Yeah.
dabbled with a few like 3 minutes here and there. So
Right.
the 45-minute like dead silence, then trying to label my breathing and just being like, oh my God, 4 days. Oh my God,
Right.
everything else. I can't do this. Why am I here? How am I gonna? And I was in the forest in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't know, like, I couldn't just leave because I didn't have my
Oh.
car. So then that was like, I need to get in touch with Angie and get her to come and pick me up from this hellhole immediately. So, are you okay?
Yeah, I just need to send a message. But yes, keep going.
Nice. Um, anyway, spiraled, lost control, knew I needed to leave, like I couldn't stay. And the teacher tried for about an hour to talk me off the cliff.
Right.
But I was gone far, already
Yes.
planning my escape route, even whilst he was talking to me. And then we ended the conversation, and I like ran through the forest in the dark because it was like probably a 5 minute walk, or maybe it wasn't even that far, but it felt like at least 5 minutes from the accommodation to the yurt that we were doing the like meditation in the dark. Like, and I'm scared of cougars in the Highlands, so that was scary.
Right.
Um, to get my phone to text you to say, come and get me. And then you came to
Right.
get me, and I left the retreat and lost my mind when I got home. Like, just, I felt like, I don't know, it was crazy. For like 4 days at least, I was just like wrecked
Yeah.
from like a traumatic, like, it was as if I had experienced a trauma, and
Yeah.
I,
It was an interesting feeling. And for
it
me
was,
too. Like to feel the energy of you in the house after was something.
yeah, it was weird. But now anytime I see a dog on place stressing out, like trying, you can see it in their eyeballs. They like look at their crate, or you can see them scan the environment for like all of their escape routes. Like, what if I go over
Yes.
here? What if I do this? And then they might even shift, and you're like, nope, down. And you see them panicking, and then they'll start panting. And I just see that, and I'm like, I know how you're feeling. And
Yeah.
I wish someone had been able to like be what I am for dogs at that retreat and like make me stay. Because I think
Right.
a lot of
Yeah.
people think like, oh, it's cruel, the dog's going through that. Like, you had free, I could leave and get
Hmm.
out of it. We don't let the dogs leave and get out of it. But that's like, that would be a disservice to do
To
that.
let the dog, to let them get off of their bed and just
Yeah.
start walking around. Yeah. And
To
most
just be
people,
like, okay, this is like obviously too hard for you. Like, you need
mhm.
to move.
Yeah. Which I think is what most people do. Like they get the dog starts to show discomfort like you did where you're just like and that's where we end it. And so we never actually peak the summit of the mountain. We just like we go back down to safety. So we like do a little bit of the work and go back down, a bit of the work and go back down, and we never actually like get the fruit of that like labor, which
Mm-hmm.
is unfortunate.
Yeah. It made it so much easier for me to do my job with dogs. Now seeing them like stressed and spiraling and being like, I know how you feel, but like, I'm going to actually coach you through this, and like, you're going
Hmm.
to get out to the other side. And then every time they do, it's like so rewarding, because it's
Yeah.
just, you knew that you were able to like get them through that anxiety, and then that translates. It's such a like, it's like a next level of trust with the dog,
Yes.
like for them with you, where they're just
Yeah.
like, because like you said, they're testing to be like, where's the floor? And when you're
Yeah.
like, the floor is here, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it, no matter how much you kick, scream, fight, move, pant, like, this is how it's going.
Hmm.
Once they kind of get out of that stress, they're
Yeah.
just so they look at you in a different way. It's like, and people comment
Yeah.
on that a lot on the
Yeah.
stories.
Hmm.
Even the owners, they'll be like, oh my God, the way the dog looks at you. And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, because we've
They're like, thank you for like giving me an answer to this is a problem. Like they're
yeah,
living in a in a problem they can't solve.
yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And I think people don't they underestimate the benefit of what we do. I think people still get really caught up on like, oh, dog training, oh, you just like teach
Hmm.
them to sit and like
And
not.
you can, and that's what a lot of dog trainers do is teach tricks. and
Yeah.
never address the mind. And so then you have a dog that can perform some movements, but again, masking what's under the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say like really what our specialty is actually treating the dogs. Like people say that too, that like they treat the root cause by like with
Yeah,
this whole like redirection training is getting to the root. And I'm just like, I don't think anyone's getting to the root other than anyone who's doing this and like
yeah,
doing those durations and like working the dog through their anxiety and like slowing them down. And
yeah,
it sucks. Like it sucks to do it
yeah,
because it's uncomfortable. It feels like no one likes to see their dog stress. And I think so
yeah.
many people are struggling with that. They have a dog who's really fearful or really anxious. They're scared of
Hmm.
like cars coming by or like, you know, a broom propped in a space where it isn't usually. Like dogs are just suspicious and scared and anxious, and owners are like, it can't be nice for them to feel that way.
Yeah,
But then doing what they need to do to get over that, that also makes them uncomfortable.
yes.
So then
Yeah.
owners are stuck.
Well, it's just easier to go with the familiar discomfort rather than like the unknown or and it's just the classic like people would rather live in long-term like sort of mild discomfort than short-term like acute discomfort to then have a life of whatever it is that they want, whether we're talking about like eating healthy, working out, like whatever it is. There's like a short-term discomfort for long-term gain. And people just have it flipped. They would just rather have that short-term discomfort for whatever reason isn't worth it. And I think it's just because they don't know a life where you don't have to be uncomfortable. Like it could actually be better if you would just like get through that initial discomfort, even though it's going to be, yeah, it's not nice, but it's necessary.
Where's Stevie off to?
He's never heard me in this corner before. He's like, why are you over there talking to the window?
I'm just gonna check out our live because there's some questions that came
Yeah,
through. Someone said when the dog does that, pushing boundaries in place,
yeah.
do you give a verbal and a plus P or just a plus P?
Like a punishment, I think is what they're saying. When they're
Do you give
pushing,
it a verbal
like
and a positive or just a
not
positive?
positive. I think he means
Sorry,
punishment.
punishment. Right.
Yeah. Um, when they get off place is the question.
When they push the boundaries in place, yeah, like pour off or like
Right.
try a different bed. And I have had owners ask this before, like maybe they have two beds out in the house and they send them to a place where they go to the wrong one, and
Right.
owners are like, does that matter? Or they've got the
Yeah.
pour off, does that matter? And how do you go about it?
Yeah, this is the interesting part where like I don't think it's all narrowed down to rewards and punishments. Like it's a conversation. So the dog stretching to like have their arm slightly off, I think of that as a question like, hey, is this okay? And so it's not a like firm like no punishment like that type of boundary really. It's kind of just gentle guidance back over. So usually they would have a leash on and we would grab the leash and position our body on the other side of the bed and just reissue the command. Typically, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would just say place. Like if the dog's paw
Yeah.
is off, then by default they're not in doing place. So then it would
Yeah.
just be leash guidance place.
Yeah.
With yeah, typically a correction would come with that because most of the time we're teaching this with the e-collar. But
Yeah.
obviously, if you're not doing it with the e-collar, then the leash guidance is going to be the
And I guess it depends like where in the training process because it wouldn't be like a correction per se where it's like a high number on an e-collar to make the dog be like, "Whoa, I messed up."
no.
Unless
They
they're
kept
or they're like further along and they know they're not
yeah.
supposed to get off, right? Like it just really depends. Um, but yeah, it's so dependent on the situation. And again, it's not so like scientific where it has to
Mm-hmm.
be like, if a dog does this, we do this. Like this is a living, breathing animal. This is a relationship. So it's a conversation a lot of the time, more so than like A plus B equals C.
Yeah. Also, I think sometimes you can tell, like, you have to tell the vibe of the pushing of boundaries. If the dog is genuinely, so, like, some people don't have a place big enough for their dog. So then they fall
Yeah.
asleep and they're like off it. And people be
Yes.
like, what do I do? Because they're like off it. And it's like,
Right.
well, nothing, because they're asleep. So they're not
Yeah.
like intentionally
Yeah.
doing it. And you can usually tell if the dog's like paw off, kind of like looking at you, or like
Hmm.
arm off looking at you, then it's going to be place with a reminder back on. But if
Right.
they're just fallen asleep and like their arm has accidentally come off place, then we're not going to be fussed about that, because
Yeah.
it's
And
again,
again,
it's
it's
the mindset, not.
yes, yes. What we're after is the ability for the dog to have impulse control and not be constantly preoccupied with like, what can I get away with, or what can I do next, or what's coming next. Like, if that intention and that vibe isn't there, then there's nothing to correct because that's what we're working on.
Yeah, hopefully that answers that one.
Yeah.
Oh, someone had just said that this is the same as teaching horses to tie
Okay.
and just learn to relax while tied.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
assuming you
Yeah.
just kind of like tie them and then let them
So yeah, figure
figure it
it
out.
out. Yeah.
That's such a huge piece of this training that we do, that people get so caught up. No problem. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah.
Um, People get so caught up on, like you say, the process, or like, but what about this situation? What about that
Hmm.
situation? I think you have to really get into the mindset of like, this is a conversation, this is a relationship, this isn't like, there's no
Yeah.
set format.
Yes. Other than like any relationship, if you have an idea in your mind, you and I are friends, and we both have this idea in our mind of how we want this friendship to go. And if one of us steps out of that expectation, then the other one either needs to voice that expectation and say, like, can we do it this way? Or not voice it and just accept what's happening. Like those are your options in a relationship. And this thing we have with our dogs is essentially a friendship, a little bit more like a I don't want to go here because someone will take it too far, but it is a little bit of like a parent. Like I at least the dog is dependent on us for survival and for direction because they have no idea how to navigate the human world. So in that way, we're kind of like their guide, their parent. Um, so it's not always, they don't always get equal say, but we definitely need to figure out like, how do we want this dynamic to go? How do we want this relationship to be? And if the dog steps out of those bounds, we need to just communicate that with them. It's like, it's not so much a dog training technique as it is, how do I get this being that's living in my house to relate to me the way that I want them to?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And like, every dog is going to have a different, like, what they find valuable in that conversation. And
Yes.
some dogs are going to be more respectful of certain boundaries within a relationship, and other dogs are going to be less so.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
They said I was just trying to figure out if I was saying no with an e-collar correction, or just the
Right.
environment correct the dog, so she knows. Oh, like the environment being just the e-collar stim and no verbal command.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
I
the
would,
dog was like super dialed on place, probably you could just tap and they would, like, some dogs who really know place, when they feel the e-collar, they'll like
mhm.
get back on. um
I would say place though. I wouldn't even say no, really.
yeah, yeah, I would exactly, because if they're off place, then that's not place. So just instead of saying no, saying place would be
Mhm.
what we would do.
Yeah. With the e-collar tap
Yeah,
or some sort of physical follow through, leash guidance, e-collar, whatever it is. Yeah.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
yeah, reissuing the command. And that's something that like we're not opposed, like repeating a command is fine as long as you're making it happen, like making it obvious to the dog what it is that you want. Again, just the expectations of how you want things to go and then just follow through on them in the way that the dog understands.
yeah. So I'd repeat my place command. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, same
Nice.
with heel, really. Like, it's not, unless the dog, well, I guess you don't really like saying heel that much.
At the beginning, yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you were to stop and go again, then I would repeat heel. But for me, heel is a funny one. It's a whole other topic, kind of.
Yeah, well, that
Um,
will give us a good one for next, because it's
yeah,
also a moving place in terms of what we
a
just
moving
discussed for the whole hour, the
sort of.
benefits.
Yeah, the thing about heel though is that so things like I don't teach an off-leash heel. If I was teaching an off-leash heel, then I would use the command a lot more. But I think of it as an entirely different thing. When I put a leash on a dog, it's a given that they don't pull, they don't walk in front of me, they don't like F around, sniffing, marking, which is all basically heel. It's just that it's just a given for me. When you're on a leash, you don't do any of that stuff. The leash kind of being attached to you, that's the command, rather than it needing to have a verbal reminder constantly. It's like, no, this physical thing is still on you, and this is how you behave when that's on you. So there is an association to being attached to a leash that encompasses everything that heel technically is. But if I wanted the dog to be able to do all of that off leash, now we don't have the command or the association of the leash. It's kind of like down without a place, really.
Mhm.
Then it's just a different command entirely to me, off leash heel.
Right. Because you don't have the leash to add. As you were saying that, I was thinking it kind of feels similar to like the crate being calmness. This crate is the association, like being in those walls means you're
Yeah,
calm. There's no barking, whining, scratching at the door. Like when you're
yeah,
in your crate, you're calm,
yeah,
which is like what you're saying when you're on leash, you're
yeah,
not pulling, barking, lunging, doing all the things. Like the that is the command.
yeah,
But place and like an off leash heel is the same like idea. Like when you're on place, you're calm, but it
yeah,
just now means that like it's just a bit more functional than always having to use a crate or a leash. I
yeah,
certainly find that for like an off leash heel, like in the woods, it's just kind of like I don't want to have to clip my leash on every
yeah,
time to get that position.
yes. Yeah, I guess that's where we differ though. Like I don't really care if the dog is on my left in heel. I just want them around me, so I just use a recall.
Right. I think just most dogs test that if they're not like there and they're behind you.
But you
But
as the trainer can teach them. Like I just want you can be on my right, on my left, behind me, but you can't be in front of me.
then they always just get into heel because then
Yeah,
if they're
which
behind, then they just go there anyway because they're like,
yeah,
wow. It's
yeah,
like
which yeah,
also when they're behind me, I'm like now if I'm passing someone I can't see. So then if they do go up to the person I'm passing, I miss
yeah,
it because they're behind me. So I
right.
do prefer like I guess yeah either side. Like I might either side's fine, but then it just gets blurred lines where it's like then they go off that way and you correct them. So then they end up going on the left anyway because you've practiced so much like being on the left. I think that's why I teach it and do it just because I find like often we'll do a recall to a moving target. So like come means obviously come to me
Yeah,
until you hear break.
yeah.
That in a actual functional situation moving past people doesn't always function that well.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah. Because like you say I can't see them, so I'm like are you there or like oh no now you've gone or I have to
Yeah.
walk like this, which is annoying.
You remind me of like a infomercial person that's just like a carton of milk is so hard, and they just like over exaggerate how hard it is. Like it's not that hard.
It is I stand by that. It is hard, it's annoying
Yeah.
to
What
walk like this.
I find the opposite. I find that like I used to teach off leash heel because I used to teach competitive obedience, and that was part of it. And I found that the average pet dog owner could not figure the F out just how to keep their dog on that side. So the dog would just kind of like be around them, and and so I was like, whatever. Then just let them be around you, but not
Yeah,
veer all the way off,
yeah,
because that like strict heel position was too precise and like competition style.
right.
So that's why I got rid of it. But yeah, if you want to do it. It's a
Yeah,
free
no, I
country.
can see how that would be like a problem as well. Some the person said, I hope you don't mind me asking another question, but if you
Yeah.
do have a high drive breed and it does sport work and other drive activities, can you still have that boring house dog in the home? My dog is 3.
Hmm.
I have a good off switch, but since we've been doing butte work over the last year, she's showing more anxious behavior in the home. So
Yeah,
I've
I
gone
would
to
say 100,
yeah,
100%. Yes. Yeah,
yeah, and
and
that's go on, you go.
just some people in the sport world will say that that will like wash out your sport dog. Like they'll just get uh, like just not as drivey and high performing on the field. And um, let's say even that, let's say that was true. I don't think that it is, but let's say it was. I would rather that, especially since this is just I mean, I don't want to take away from like the importance of this in somebody's life. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a fun thing. It's a fun, yes, it's competitive and like you take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's a fun thing. And what's really real and really matters is like, can I live with this dog day to day? Like, is this affecting my quality of life in my home? And if it is, then I would suggest that's just a sport dog and it lives like outside in a dog run or in the garage in a crate and it only ever does sport. It doesn't try to integrate into your family. Or let's say it's true that the sport drive kind of goes down when you integrate off switch and like calmer stuff in the house. I would just accept that as a consequence of like I want this also to be an integrated pet dog. So to me, it might wash them out a little bit, but to me it would be worth it to just be able to live with the dog. And if I didn't want to wash them out, I would just not try to also live with the dog. I would just have it a sport dog.
Yeah, and also the thing with that type of drivey brain too is place can actually end up being like way like you might actually be better off not doing place with that dog and just having more of a go lie down command,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is what I experienced with like a drivey dog. Is place just became this like mental prison of like
Yeah.
you've got this drivey dog and then you tell them place and now they're like performing like it's a trick again, versus
Yeah.
like if you're only doing it just because you want that like boring pet dog at home who can just go chill and lie down, then maybe more of a go lie down with some feedback would be better than
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
something a bit loose.
Yeah.
They said so most dogs can't handle both. I think it's just like,
No, I think they can. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, but there's going to be a trade-off like you said, like, or
No,
you
no, no,
don't
no.
think that there is a
No,
trade-off.
I don't think there's a trade-off, but what I'm saying is even if there was, I would prefer that than
Yeah,
having just a wild animal in my house.
yeah, yeah. I guess like most like working dogs are going to be like they're working and then they're crated, working crated, so the crate is like the
Maybe
off.
like maybe you could live that way, but what I'm saying is I don't think that it's detrimental. And I've lived with work dogs that had to work, like not just for sport, but like had to find bombs and stuff. And like you couldn't do anything to jeopardize that. And you had to live with them. And so you could get both. And that's my opinion. Obviously, everyone's going to have their opinion, especially in that world. It's highly opinionated.
Were you
Um,
doing place with these dogs or just go lie down?
I don't know that I had a word for place at the time, but there was definitely a spot for them in the house they had to be where they couldn't be just free roaming. Like they couldn't just choose where to lay down. Yeah, I can't remember honestly. I don't know that I introduced the word place until only like a handful of years ago.
But on your bed or like go
Yeah.
lie down, go lie
Yeah,
down on.
they had a bed that was theirs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
but yeah, but the ones, yeah, if they were just super drivey and I didn't overthink it to be honest. Like if they were super drivey and they just annoyed me, I would just put them in a crate. That's how I lived with them. And they still did, and they had to do their jobs. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know that there's like a clean cut answer for that. I just think that if you do want both worlds, depending on the personality of the dog, you're going to have to like work at it or accept a little bit of less performance, maybe. Like I don't know. It really just depends like on
Depends
the
on the
dog.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
Some dogs I would argue would probably perform better because they're not expending energy being stressed in a family pet home because they
hmm,
have an off switch.
yeah, I would agree with that. Cool. I liked that one.
Yeah, good one. Thanks for your questions.
Did anyone ask you? You did a story. Did anyone
Someone asked
mess?
if we were going to do another shadow, so unrelated to this conversation, but she's in Australia and she wanted to shadow us. So that was
Nice.
her
Okay.
question. Yeah. So
Cool.
so far we don't have plans for that, but like set plans, but we do have the desire.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just need Angie to move back to the island first, and then we can plan.
which is happening Sunday, two
So
days from
fun.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. As soon as she's back, then we can make all these fun plans.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Oh, this person wants to shadow too, and I
Nice.
do have
Okay,
a
we've
wait list, so I have some emails. So yes,
yeah.
we will be working on it. We're also working on me on that list. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, will do.
That's why boring dog training is happening.
Yeah, spreading the good word, good dog training word.
Nice. Okay. Well, getting hungry, so gonna go eat.
Okay, I've got a training session to go to. Thanks, everybody.
Nice.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.